The story they told you about career moves is incomplete. They told you to follow your passion first, to find your purpose, to quit the job you hate and chase meaning. There is a much more disturbing layer here, and a silent one. Every piece of advice that tells you to start with purpose is lying to you. Not because purpose is bad, but because the order is wrong. In this video, we will deconstruct the hidden architecture of career sequencing, and you will see why starting with security is the only way to build something that outlives you. Here is the data that shatters the myth. In 1908, a man named Frank Parsons opened the Boston Vocational Bureau. He published a book called Choosing a Vocation in 1909, and he invented something called vocational guidance. His trait factor model was simple. Match your personality traits to the job requirements. It sounds reasonable, and it was the foundation of the entire field of career counseling. But Parsons missed something crucial. He assumed the person was static. He assumed your interests arrived fully formed, waiting to be matched. He did not account for the hunger that changes after survival is secured. Now imagine, you are the average American worker between the ages of 25 and 54. The Bureau of Labor Statistics says you will change jobs 12.3 times over a 30-year career. That is more than once every 3 years. 12.3 times, you will face the same question. What comes next? And most people answer that question based on whichever voice is loudest in their head today. The fear of missing out, the pressure from peers, the promise of a higher salary. They do not realize that the order of those moves determines whether the career builds into a fortress or crumbles into a series of disconnected jobs. Here is the hidden code you need to understand. The career world operates on a threshold system. Before you can reach purpose, you need stability. Before you can take risks, you need a foundation. And before you can climb, you need to know what the ladder even looks like. The problem is that modern advice skips the foundation and tells you to climb before you have built the muscles to hold on. In 2005, a psychologist named Mark Savikas introduced something called career construction theory. He shifted the focus from static traits to the narrative construction of a career identity. Translation: you are not born with a career path. You write it one chapter at a time. And the order of those chapters decides whether the story makes sense or spirals into chaos. Savikas understood what Parsons missed. The person changes. But even Savikas did not tell you what the first chapter should be. Let me show you what I mean. In 2024, Gallup published the State of the American Workplace report. Only 31% of employees felt their current role aligned with long-term career goals. That means 69% of workers are in jobs that do not connect to where they want to go. They wake up, do the work, collect the paycheck, and wonder why the career feels like a collection of random events instead of a deliberate arc. The problem is not that they lacked ambition. The problem is that they sequenced the moves in the wrong order. If you have ever walked into a job that looked perfect on paper and felt hollow within 3 months, you know the power of a misaligned sequence. It is the feeling of climbing a ladder that is leaning against the wrong wall. Now here is where the psychological research enters the scene. In 1994, a team led by Lent, Brown, and Hackett published the seminal meta-analysis on social cognitive career theory. They studied over 1,200 participants and found that career decision-making self-efficacy, your belief that you can make good career decisions, predicted career choice clarity with a coefficient of 0.62. That is a massive effect. When you believe you can navigate the system, you actually make better choices. But here is the catch. That confidence does not come from nowhere. It comes from small wins. Small decisions that prove to your brain that the system is manageable. The crowd told you to start with a leap of faith. The truth is, you must start with a step the size of a single tile. You need a win that your brain can register as evidence that the game is winnable. In 2001, Gatti and Saka published a study of 423 participants in the Journal of Vocational Behavior. They found that structured information search improved decision quality, beaten by 27% compared with unstructured search. 27%. Just organizing the information you already have makes you more than a quarter better at choosing the right path. Most people never do this. They scroll job boards randomly, apply based on instinct, and wonder why the results feel like a roulette wheel. Stop the video for a second. Think about that. You have probably spent more time planning a single vacation than planning the sequence of your next 3 career moves. And the vacation is a week. The career is 40 years. This is the moment where the architecture reveals itself. The smartest order to make career moves is not passion first. It is not purpose first. It is not money first. It is survival first, then competence, then connection, then purpose. The order is the mechanism. Get the order wrong and the system collapses. Get it right and the career builds momentum like a flywheel. Here is what the first move looks like. Before you chase a dream job, you need a job that does not drain you. Before you build a network, you need to build a skill that makes you indispensable. Before you ask for a promotion, you need to prove that you can deliver results on a consistent basis. The first move is always a move towards stability. Not glamorous, not exciting, but necessary. In 2021, the Great Resignation saw approximately 4 million American workers quit their jobs each month. The media called it a revolution of purpose. People were chasing meaning, they said. But the data tells a different story. Many of those workers who left without a plan found themselves in worse positions 6 months later. They had skipped the foundation and jumped straight to the dream. And the dream collapsed because the ground beneath it was unstable. Now watch what happens when you build the foundation first. In 2016, Brown, Lent, and Hackett published a follow-up study with over 2,000 participants. Participants with high self-efficacy were 1.8 times more likely to secure a promotion within 12 months after completing a targeted skill training program. The sequence matters. Build the skill first, then the promotion follows. Not the other way around. You are starting to see the hidden architecture now. But there is a deeper layer that most career coaches will never tell you. If what you are hearing started to shift something, stay. This is where the architecture locks into place. The second move in the sequence is competence. After you have secured a stable position, you stop looking for the next job and start looking for the next skill. The mistake most people make is that they spend their stable years waiting for the promotion to come to them. They do the same work, collect the same feedback, and wonder why the career does not accelerate. The hidden rule is this: stability is not a destination. It is a platform, and you use that platform to build something that the market cannot ignore. In 2007, Savikas and Porfali published the Career Adaptabilities Scale. They studied over 1,000 participants and found that career adaptability scores correlated with successful career transitions at a level of 0.44. Those who could adapt were also predicted to see salary growth of 6.3% per annum. That compounding effect changes everything. 6.3% per year means double the salary in roughly 11 years. And the source of that adaptability is not luck. It is deliberate skill acquisition. You do not adapt by accident. You adapt by decisions you made 2 years ago when nobody was watching. Here is the detail that breaks the narrative. In 2022, Kulik, Perry, and Mahoney published a study in the Journal of Applied Psychology with 1,560 participants. They found that weekly networking, at least 3 contacts per week, increased the odds of receiving a job offer by 41% within 6 months. 41%. Most people network when they are desperate. They send messages only when they need something. The hidden code is to network when you do not need anything. Build the relationship before the transaction. The move comes after the connection, not before. Now, you are starting to see the sequence take shape. First survival, then competence, then connection, and only then purpose. The fourth move is the one everyone wants to start with, but it only works when the first 3 are in place. If this ordering makes sense with the data you have just seen, consider subscribing to the channel so you catch the next hidden architecture we decode. The same method applied to negotiation, to pricing, to the symbols that structure your daily choices. And leave a like to help more people find this layered perspective instead of the surface-level advice that keeps them stuck. In 2020, Eng, Eby, and Sorensen published a study in the Academy of Management Journal with over 3,200 participants. They found that mentored employees reported a 34% faster promotion trajectory and a 22% higher likelihood of cross-functional moves. Mentorship is not something you find. It is something you earn by demonstrating competence first. Nobody mentors a person who cannot deliver. They mentor the person who has already shown they can handle the current role before asking for the next one. The sequence is unforgiving. Skip a step, and the entire chain weakens. You will never look at the golden arches the same way again. That is the feeling of someone who cracked the code to career sequencing. If you want to learn the other hidden systems designed to keep you stuck, I will show you the full map in the upcoming sections. Now we enter the third layer of the architecture. The crowd believes networking is an event. You attend a conference, exchange business cards, and wait for the call. The truth is that networking is a system, and like any system, it has rules that most people never learn. In 2022, LinkedIn reported that 85% of all jobs are filled via networking. Not job boards, not cold applications, not recruiter emails, relationships. 85%. If you only apply through formal channels, you're competing for the 15% of the market that is visible. The other 85% is invisible, accessible only through relationships you built before you needed them. 85%. That number is the whole point of the sequence. You cannot reach what is invisible without the foundation you built first. If this insight reshaped how you see career moves, subscribe so the next decoding of salary negotiation scripts, of promotion rituals, of the hidden rules in office architecture lands in your feed, and leave a like to signal that this type of structural breakdown matters. Remember that warning about the sequence? It is back. Network first, not when you are desperate. Here is the mechanism that makes the sequence work. Each move in the career stack builds momentum for the next. Survival buys you the time to build competence. Competence buys you the credibility to build a network. Network buys you the access to find purpose. Purpose buys you the motivation to survive the next cycle. It is a loop, but only if you enter at the correct point. In 2023, Baker and O'Neill published a study in Human Resource Management Review with 2,300 participants. Completion of a certified digital skill micro-credential raised hourly wages by 9.2% on average. That is the price of competence. Not a degree, not a certification from a university. A micro-credential, a focused, targeted demonstration of a specific skill. The market pays for what you can do, not for what you studied. Now the question becomes, how do you know which skill to build? The answer is buried in the data. In 2024, Wang, and Lee published a study in Career Development International with 1,842 participants. Participants who crafted a future-oriented career story reported a 0.58 standard deviation increase in career goal clarity, 23% more likely to initiate a job change within 4 months. The act of writing the story, of imagining the narrative arc of your career, changes the probability of executing it. You do not need to know the entire path. You just need to write the next chapter. And the next chapter must be one step above your current competence, not one step beyond your current stability. Here is where the tension reaches its peak. The crowd tells you to take risks. They tell you to bet on yourself, to quit your job and chase the dream. But the data tells a different story. The 27% improvement in decision quality from structured information search. The 1.8 times higher promotion likelihood from skill training. The 41% increase in job offers from weekly networking. All of these point to the same conclusion. The smartest career move is always the one that builds your next option without destroying your current position. You never sacrifice survival for purpose. You build competence while surviving. You build network while competent. You find purpose only when the network can carry you there. This is the part most people miss, and it is the part that changes everything. The golden rule of career sequencing is not about which job you take. It is about which gap you close. Every career move should close a gap in your current architecture. Gap in stability? Close it first. Gap in competence? Close it second. Gap in network? Close it third. Gap in purpose? Close it only when the first three are sealed. In 1959, Donald Super published his career development theory. But it was not until 1964 that he fully formulated the life space model. He identified stages: growth, exploration, establishment, maintenance, and disengagement. Most people fail at establishment. They explore forever, jumping from industry to industry, never building the depth that commands a premium. Establishment is not sexy. It is not a story you tell at dinner parties. But it is the stage where the compound interest of career actually begins. Pause here. Every piece of career advice you have ever received that told you to start with passion was asking you to skip establishment. And skipping establishment is how you spend 20 years going nowhere fast. In 1980, the Canadian Career Development Foundation was established. It created the Standard Occupational Classification that became the National Occupational Classification. The very structure of how we categorize jobs was built on the assumption that people would stay in one field and deepen expertise. The system rewards depth, not breadth, and depth only comes from staying long enough to see the patterns that beginners miss. Let me give you the concrete image. Imagine two workers. Worker A changes industries every 2 years, chasing novelty. Worker B stays in the same industry for 10 years, changing roles every 3 years within the same domain. Worker A has breadth, but no depth. Worker B has depth, and every new role builds on the previous one. By year 10, Worker A is still competing for entry-level roles in a new industry. Worker B is being recruited for senior positions that require the context only years of immersion can provide. The difference is not talent. The difference is sequence. Now, you are starting to see the full architecture. The first move secures survival. The second move builds competence. The third move expands network. The fourth move unlocks purpose. And then the cycle repeats at a higher level, each loop built on the stability of the previous one. In 2022, the data on the Great Resignation showed something unexpected. The workers who thrived after quitting were not the ones who quit on impulse. They were the ones who had built a side skill, maintained a professional network, and saved enough to survive 6 months without income. They had followed the sequence without knowing the name of it. They had secured stability, built competence, and nurtured connections before they made the leap. Every time you pass a career decision, you will not see a random fork in the road. You will see a structural choice that compounds into the next decade of your life. The code was there all along, hidden inside the studies, buried in the data, waiting for someone who knew what to look for. Now, you are that someone.